Mr. President, last fall, roughly $30 million of out-of-state money was pumped into the state of Missouri to influence Missourians' vote on Amendment 3. Missourians were faced with a false dichotomy. They were told, Mr. President, that if we didn't pass Amendment 3, women would be dying in our hospitals from an inability to receive care from their physicians for ectopic pregnancies, medical emergencies, miscarriages, and so on. That simply was not true, Mr. President, but it was a compelling argument. It was a compelling argument, compelling enough that even some of otherwise pro-life folks even voted yes on it, mainly because they wanted some exceptions in our law, which at the time we did not have. But thank you, Tony, but most Missourians do not want abortion on demand. What House Committee Substitute for House Joint Resolution 73 does, it proposes a constitutional amendment that, if passed by the voters, has to go back to the voters, Mr. President. Some of the highlights of the legislation, should it be approved by the voters, are: it will reinstate women's safety standards at abortion facilities, ensuring women's safety. It will require parental consent for minors in order to obtain an abortion. It will reaffirm a woman's right to health care for miscarriages, ectopic pregnancies, and medical emergencies. It will ensure that we protect a woman's right to sue for medical malpractice during botched abortions. It would prohibit transgender surgeries from being performed on little kids. It will prohibit our tax dollars from funding abortions. It would prohibit abortions based on the diagnosis of a disability. So if a child is diagnosed with Downs or something of that nature, it would prohibit that. And if approved by the voters, it would limit abortions to rape, incest, fetal anomalies, and again, medical emergencies. Mr. President, our Declaration of Independence states that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and that among these are life. Our Constitution says in Article 1, Section 2, it says that all persons have a natural right to life, and that when government does not confer this security, it fails in its chief design. Protecting innocent human life is the very basis of good government. It is foundational to a just society. It's foundational to our republic, Mr. President. The protection of the born and the preborn. This also means protecting the women who enter into the abortion clinics. When Amendment 3 went into effect, the abortion industry immediately sued the state to remove the women's safety standards from our laws. And due to Amendment 3, the judge struck down some of those standards that were required. For instance, licensing requirements for abortion facilities, written protocol for emergencies, waiting periods, and standard sterilization standards for protecting women. The text of Amendment 3 was so broad that there's also concern that it will strike that if challenged, that if our laws regarding medical malpractice are challenged, it would also influence their ability to sue for medical malpractice. As we speak, Mr. President, there's another pro-choice group that is suing the state to remove parental consent laws, using Amendment 3 as the grounds for doing so. They want to strip parents of their rights as parents. Mr. President, Missouri's women need the protections that are contained in this bill. Missouri's babies, Missouri's children need these protections, and Missouri's parents need these protections. This resolution presents the average Missourian with a choice at the ballot box, one that I believe is much more in keeping with their value system, Mr. President.